What's up, everybody? This is Judith A. Cope. You're listening to Mad Love. Yesterday, I took a little break. I just did not have anything in the chamber to talk about, but today is different. Today, we will talk probate court. In St. Louis, and I'm guessing across Missouri, you cannot represent yourself in any way in probate court. So I'm not talking about a big, complicated portfolio. I'm talking about a small amount of money in a few accounts, because when someone is actively spending on their care, they spend a lot of money. And so, below 10K in my mind, and I'm blessed because I don't think that's a huge amount of money. I'm okay with that. I'm thankful, that I feel like, $10,000 isn't a huge amount of money. Of course, everybody could use $10,000, but I'm saying if I have to hire an attorney and they have to file paperwork, which I have to pay for, and I have to pay for court costs, and they get a percentage of whatever, the estate is. How is that beneficial to me for $10,000? You can already hear the money drifting away. Your $10,000 is now probably closer to $5,000. So how does that benefit a family? It doesn't. It only benefits the banks. Probate court is a big old scam. And I'm urging people to do everything they can to avoid it. Please put your loved ones' names uh, as a co-account, joint accounts. That's the only way, or transfer on death. And people think they're doing you a solid, or maybe they don't care what they're doing. Maybe they're just like, I want 5 bank accounts and this is how I'm going to run it. But make sure you put people on those accounts because nobody can even close it. And I'm telling you, if someone has a decent amount of money in it, the banks don't want you to come with a death certificate and be able to pull the money out. You can't tell me that's not the reason. They want to keep your money in their bank. And that's why we have these draconian, ridiculous rules. And then in Missouri, you can open a small account, a small claims affidavit thing for your probate, or or if the person has over $50,000, it becomes a 6 month thing. And at first I was like 6 months, and then they say it's because they want to attract all the creditors. Well, my brother didn't have creditors. It's so they could keep 50 grand in the bank using it. Because once you have your money in a bank, it's never sitting in the bank. It's being used to put into bigger loans while they give you, 1% interest on it, and they're getting, you know, some huge percentage in return for loaning it out. So yeah, I mean, avoid probate at all costs. It's just a scam. You know, you're gonna have to hire an attorney, and you have to list out all the accounts. And it's just a scam for the banks. There's no way around that for me. And it's so frustrating because, you know, it's just another thing that I have to consider and work on in a time where I don't technically feel like doing that. And it's like, I don't know. I get so frustrated, but I honestly believe that's what the scam is. Think about it. So say your uncle lives in St. Louis, died, left the surviving relative in their family, maybe a niece, you know, a painting that's worth a lot of money and $75,000 cash. She lives in California. She's going to have to hire an attorney to get access to that stuff. That's even with a will. So let me be clear. There is a will, but you have to file it with the probate court, and it's not like they'll just say, "Oh yeah, you can have stuff." No, you have to go through this court process. I just don't understand why nothing is aimed at helping a person and everything is aimed at helping banks and businesses. It really drives me crazy. So anyway, if I were you, and this is for me and my friends too. Like a lot of us have either buried one parent or we don't have any parents left. Maybe the caregiving won't be as big for some people as it was for me. And now it's time to focus on your own finances. Please make sure you have transfer on death for your cars, for your bank accounts, anything with money. Because if you love somebody, what you don't want to do is make them feel like, oh, I have to hire an attorney and go to court. Like, that makes zero sense. And in a case like my brother's, who could very easily just have a whole bunch of accounts that I don't even really know about, um, and they have money sitting in them, I don't feel like doing this. Will I do it? I'm going to wait and sit on it because it is a lot of extra work in addition to the physical cleaning out of his place, which technically I don't have to do, because they have frozen all of his accounts. So what happens is when you die and you notify the government, then eventually the banks find out because the banks know everything, right? So they frozen his accounts, and I'm not exactly interested in paying his bills out of my own pocket, which is leads me to the theory like, things are a scam because why wouldn't the power of attorney last after someone passes? I'm not saying it has to last for a lifetime, but at least at the minimum 30 days. I would say ideally 6 months because your business of you doesn't die the day you die. There's somebody that still needs to transact business on your behalf after you pass away. So just because you died on a Monday, that doesn't mean there's not shit that needs to be done on Tuesday on your behalf. I just think it's ridiculous. There's been absolutely nothing that has been put in place to help people. It's always the banks and the businesses. So keep that in mind and know that even if you have the power of attorney, as soon as somebody passes away, it doesn't mean anything. Now you got to go to probate court immediately, which is ridiculous. People are grieving, people are tired, if you've been taking care of somebody, you're exhausted. So the last thing you want to do is start in looking for an attorney. And you know what I mean? Like, and I remember this, but I forgot it. With my mom, she only had one checking and savings account. It had like $50 in it. And I really wasn't about to start fighting for $50. I wasn't going to hire an attorney just so I could close her account. They closed it on their own. So it's just frustrating. I don't understand America. And at some point, it stopped being about the people altogether and really just about, like I said, banks and businesses. Banks and businesses. Watched the Pitt last night. We're finally getting to, I think we got one episode left. And we find out that Dr. Robbie, is not only just trying to get on this motorcycle and ride away, he's trying to get on a motorcycle, ride away, and never come back. He, too, is where Sean Hatosi's character was in the beginning of the series, contemplating jumping. Go back to the first episode when Robbie comes on shift and I can't think of his show name, Abbott maybe, and Sean Hatosi or Dr. Abbott is standing on the roof of the hospital, and it seems very seriously contemplating jumping off. And I get how these jobs can be stressful. I've had a stressful, important job where, life and death is hanging in your hands, but you've got to be able to keep your balance. And one thing I haven't seen any of these people do is say a prayer. And I said one every day. People go, how can you look at that stuff? How can you watch people do those things to each other? How can you just watch people get shot point blank in the face? And it's like, because I pray, I meditate, and I try to make it about getting justice for the victims and not making it about myself by obsessing about how terrible the crime is to look at. I still have to do my job. And so it's not about me, it's about making sure that this person who's been victimized and these families who've been traumatized get justice. And for me, prayer was everything. And at the same time, I had very little sleep. I had my mom in here, she was raging out. And, there are many people right now who've only known me as a caregiver. So I've had stress and I've had pressure. And like I said, that job right there should come with some sort of mandatory psychological training. And more than that, pray. It is transformative. It really is. So that's what I would recommend. The Pitt is an excellent show. It's very well done. Noah Wiley writes, and I think he's even directed a couple. He's very talented, and he's not wrong. These jobs are very stressful. They take a lot out of people to patch folks back up and send them out in the world after they look like they were going to die. I mean, you're really interceding because you really are God in that moment because you have restarted a heart, and then God's will comes into play because if the heart doesn't restart or if the person eventually does still pass away, you can't fix everything or everyone. And that can be overwhelming. And I think he started to fall apart after his fake stepson was such a jerk about his girlfriend dying. I really thought that was a weird twist for me. Well, why couldn't you save her? You save everybody else. Who talks like that? Anyway, maybe that's a whatever this generation is thing. I don't know. But it's like you should be grateful for the effort because he really did everything to try to save that girl. But I thought that was the only wrinkle I had with the writing staff. Like, what the fuck was that? But anyway, it's mainly a very, very, very good show, and I think you should watch it. It's way better than DTF St. Louis, which ends on Sunday, thank God. And I hope forever that they keep St. Louis out of HBO's mouth, or not HBO, keep it out of Jason Bateman's mouth, because he will produce a show and he don't give a fuck about making it authentic or making the city a character. Do you know how interesting that show would be if they had St. Louis stuff in it? Just any amount? Don't get me started. Have an amazing weekend. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to be off a little bit next week. I'm traveling for the first time in a while. So there probably won't be podcasts Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But we'll see. I may make a show from the road. You never know. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well, be safe, and we'll talk here soon. Bye.